Hey everybody, it's Janice with Creating Through Chaos, and today we're going to make a super cute Pioneer Woman inspired sign. So I grabbed this sign from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to use some heat and pop this little metal rooster off the front of it. So I basically just heated it up and then used my Cricut tool to just kind of pop it up. You could just use a butter knife or even like a small screwdriver, whatever you have on hand. And I'm just going to pop that right off. Next, I took some water and I just sprayed down the whole sign, and I'm just going to let that sit for a little while, and then I am going to use a scraper and scrape it off. And this actually didn't take very long. Once I had it all scraped off, I just let it dry, use my heat gun to help it along. So the next step is I'm going to set that aside and let it dry some more. I'm going to take this Pioneer Woman fabric that I got at Walmart. I'm going to lay it down backwards, lay my rooster on it, and I am going to trace that rooster out. I just used a pen to do so. And I kind of picked where I wanted it on the fabric. And then I'm just going to cut that pattern out that I just made. And this part was a little tedious, but this project is so worth it. So I absolutely am in love with how it turned out. Next, I'm going to take some Mod Podge. And I used hard coat Mod Podge. You can use any. This is just what I had on hand. And I'm just going to make sure that I cover that whole rooster. And I did a kind of a thick coat, making sure that I got in all the grooves because this is like corrugated metal. Then I'm going to lay that fabric right on top of that, kind of press it down with my fingers. And then I set that aside and let it dry to make sure that it fully adhered. And then once it was dry, I took another coat of Mod Podge and put it right over the top of the fabric. I really wanted this to be stuck well. So I made sure I had another thick coat on top, and again, I let that dry. So this is kind of a project I had to work in sections, letting things dry and then coming back to it. So it was one of those ones that took, a little while to do, but it was kind of over time. So altogether, it didn't really take all that long. Once I had that all covered, I'm going to set him aside, and I'm going to paint this whole sign now that it's dry and I took off all the other stuff. I'm going to paint that with some white paint, and I ended up doing 2 coats of white paint on this. Once the paint was all dry, I'm going to take some flat beads, so they're like half beads, and I just stuck them to some painter's tape on my desk, and I'm going to paint 2 of the beads yellow, 2 of the beads a turquoise color, 2 of the beads red, and 2 of the beads white. I took the colors that I chose for the beads out of the colors that I put on the rooster that were in the fabric. And this is a very colorful project because everything with Pioneer Woman is super colorful and super bright and fun. And so I really wanted this to be, a way to honor that. So I wanted to make sure that I did all of those things. Next, I took a ruler and I'm going to make some lines where this sign looks like it's a fence. So I'm just going to take a pencil and run some lines where they would have been. I did the same thing on the top and the bottom. And I'm going to leave those pencil marks there, and I'm actually going to use them as my lines. So once I have all the lines drawn out, I'm just going to take a little bit of white paint, and I kind of watered it down a little bit. And I'm going to run those over the lines, and that is how I am going to make the fence lines. So I'm just lightly dry brushing with a little bit of paint over those lines, and those are going to make the lines of the fence. And it literally took a couple of seconds to do that. And then I'm going to let that dry. Once that's all dry, it's time to add our rooster. So I'm just going to hot glue him right to the center. Back to where he was, but now he has a whole new look. And I absolutely love that fabric. All the Pioneer Woman fabric is so beautiful. Once I have him all on, I'm going to start adding my half beads. So I started with a yellow bead, then a red bead, then I did a white, and then a teal. And then I just repeated the colors over again. So I'm going to do yellow, red, white, and teal. And I love the beads. I love the color. I've shown a couple people, they were like, oh, I don't really like the color, but I like the color. Like I said, this is Pioneer Woman inspired, so it's supposed to be really bright and colorful. Next, I'm going to take some boxwood, and I got my boxwood at Walmart, where I always buy it because it's cheap there. And I'm going to add 2 sprigs of that down at the bottom. And I'm just going to hold that in to the hot glue to make sure that it's fully secure. Then I took some of the fabric and I ripped it into some strips, and I made a double bow out of the strips of fabric. And then I tied off the center of the bows with a piece of twine. So as you can see, I just used the fabric that was on the rooster. I'm going to add that right to the center of my boxwood. Once I have that all attached, I'm just going to kind of fix my loops a little bit. Make sure that it's centered and where I want it. And then I'm going to take this little button that I had. It's like a red and white checkered button. I'm going to add that right to the center of my bow. And look how stinking cute this is. I absolutely love it. I love the colors. It's so bright and fun. Next, I'm going to take some twine, and I'm just going to add a hanger to the top. So I just pulled some twine through because I had taken the original hanger off. Tie a couple of knots. And then I am going to pull it through, and I'll repeat the process on the other side. And there you go. How stinking cute is this? I absolutely love it. I think this came out so cute. It's so bright. It's so fun. And I hope this inspires you to make one. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, don't forget to spread the chaos.